Hi, it's a Lipstick Gal. Thanks so much for watching today. Somebody requested a full face of Lisa Eldridge. I think over the past I've done, every time I do a Lisa video, I use as many of her products as I can, but I don't think I've ever done a dedicated full face. I could be wrong. I'm gonna leave my Lisa Eldridge playlist in the description box down below, but I'm just gonna get ready for the day using as many of Lisa's products as I can. First thing I'm gonna start with is this. This is the Elevated Glow. You can see I have two here. This one here is in the shade Pink Moon, and this is in Cosmic Rose. I love these highlighters because I use them kind of like a primer. There is a polymer in here, I think it's like a biopolymer, that actually helps to kind of tighten the skin. This right here is the shade Cosmic Rose. You can see it's a little bit darker than my skin, and so I usually use that one as the primer. I mistakenly picked up this one thinking I was getting the new shade in Pink Moon. Pink Moon is the one that I use kind of like a highlighter on top, and it's just a little bit closer to my skin tone. Out of all of the Elevated Glows, this is the one here. You can see it's very close to my skin tone that actually suits me the best. My favorite one is in Crystal Nebula, but I told myself I needed to finish the two that I had open. So I'm going to use Cosmic Rose kind of like as a primer, if you will, on the skin today. This is one of those rare products that I feel like I can put everywhere. It does have a lot of skincare ingredients that make your skin feel kind of really bouncy and hydrated and luscious. There is also that biopolymer in here that will kind of set and slightly tighten. Lisa says it kind of creates like a mesh grid on your skin and kind of pulls everything, helps to blur things out. So I just kind of put it everywhere. These are pretty heavy swatches that haven't been rubbed in all the way. When you do take the time to rub them in a little bit more, they're not quite as glossy, but they do give a really pretty glow. And I like that they're not too glittery. There are no glitter particles. The pearls that are in this product are so beautiful on the skin. Now that I have this kind of spread all over my face, I'm going to give it just a few minutes to make sure that it sets, and it gives that biopolymer a chance to just kind of interact. While I'm waiting for that, my lips are feeling a little bit dry. I'm going to throw on one of Lisa's glosses. This is the Gloss Embrace in the shade Muse. I really like the way these glosses feel, and I love the packaging on them. My one problem, and this is a me problem, I don't think it's anybody else's problem, is the doe foot on here is like a little circle. I'm used to something that's more paddle-like, and I end up, getting this places where I don't want it. So I do better with lighter shades, something like this. I do have a deeper shade here. This one here in Blush tends to kind of go everywhere, and that's mainly user error. I've always thought about decanting these into a cleaned out lip gloss container that had a different doe foot, but I just can't bring myself to do it because they're so pretty. But I don't reach for them as much as I'd like to, but the formula feels amazing on the lips. Lisa doesn't have any concealer in her line or powder yet, so I'm going to fill in the places where, if Lisa doesn't have a product, I'm going to use one of my more trusted products, but I'm starting here with a little bit of under eye corrector. I'll list everything in the description box down below, but I want to make sure that I have corrector on before I start putting on foundation. Let's put on some of Lisa's Seamless Skin Foundation. If you're curious, I wear the shade number 2. Out of my entire foundation collection, this is the one that is actually the closest shade match for me. I don't know what, it's like a little bit of magic, and I love it so much. One of my other favorite things is that one of Lisa's pumps is kind of like the equivalent of half a pump with any other brand. Like a full pump of foundation is always too much for me. I'm gonna start with just this, and I'm gonna dot it around on my face, starting mostly here in the center of my face. I feel like if I can kind of bring down the redness around my nose and my chin and get coverage here, I need a little bit less everywhere else. This works really well with fingers. It works really well with the brush. It works really well with a sponge. I find that when I use a sponge, I'm more likely to end up with product going into the sponge, and I have less product to distribute on my face. So I usually start out by just putting the color where I want it, blending it in, and then finishing the blending with the sponge, because if I go straight in with the sponge, it just kind of eats it up. This is one of those products that wears really well for about 12 hours. I find that I get a really good day's wear out of this. This doesn't seem to settle into my fine lines and expression lines, which I love. And it also gives just enough coverage without being too heavy. I would definitely say this is medium coverage because I feel like it can take down the redness. It can kind of help to blur out any of my kind of freckles where they look less obvious, but it's not super high coverage. That's the sort of finish that I prefer. I prefer a natural looking medium coverage. The minute you give me something that is like full coverage and matte, I feel less like myself and more like I'm wearing a face of makeup. But I feel like this can do just the right amount of, I'm gonna bring in a damp sponge now to blend the rest, just the right amount of coverage, and it looks like me, and I feel like it's a really good match between my face and my chest, and I don't have to take makeup all the way down, which is my least favorite thing to do. And I still have a bit left on my palette, so this is what I will use to like kind of dab over hyperpigmentation spots on my face to give myself just a little bit more coverage where I want it. This is a really beautiful product. I've never been able to successfully use this under the eyes. It's just not opaque enough for me. Some people who have fewer under eye circles would do well with this just all over the face and be done. But I do like to use just a slightly heavier duty concealer on the rest of my face. But I like the way that it looks like my skin, but happy and juicy, and it looks really nice. And when I don't set like my forehead or like really heavily here, I don't find that I get a ton of settling in there. It looks really pretty all day long. So I took a few minutes to put on concealer, powder, eyebrow products, and again, listing everything in the description bar below because these are not Lisa products. But the next thing I'm gonna put on is something that she's currently not selling, but I can't wait until she brings back. And it's the Enlivening blush. I love Lisa's blush formula so much. The problem with the blush was the packaging. The packaging failed. It came in a squeezy tube and the crimped portion of the tube kind of exploded and blush came out everywhere. So I ended up just depotting. I had 3 of them and I ended up putting them in other separate containers. So mine are never in the containers they originally came in. I found like little teeny tiny different pots to put them in because the product is so good. Here's the third one I have here. This one here is Island Glow. But this is such a beautiful and elegant formula. So I bought these when these launched in summer of 21. And then about 11 months later, like May of 2022, all 3 of my tubes started exploding at the same time in the same way. And I reached out and I just said, you know, I'm having this problem. Could you send me a new one? They're like, actually, we're not. We're looking at new packaging. And they were so good, they gave me like store credit. And I was like, what? I didn't expect after a year of having it for them to give me credit for a product, but they have the best customer service. This shade I have here is called Dante's Dream. It's a beautiful, kind of desaturated, slightly, it's not really terracotta. It's such a pretty nude shade. It's so lovely. My favorite way to apply cream blushes, especially these, is just to use a brush. And I have some kind of, I picked up some from the pot, and then on the palette that I have here, I just kind of work the bristles into it. I don't want to have like one little placement of blush here. I want it kind of worked out throughout the bristles. And then I'm just gonna, you know, tap this where I want it. When I was talking to customer service last year, they mentioned that 2023 was the year they were hoping to bring the blushes back. I also really love this shade here. This one is in Venetian Red. It's right here. I think I might put just a little bit of this like on the apples of my cheeks. I don't want a lot. I want a little bit of more, just a little bit. I'm really liking the way this blush is turning out. I'm gonna throw on just a little bit of the liquid highlight in Pink Moon. This elevated glow is so pretty. I find that to go over something like this, even though my face isn't fully set, I do like to get it on multiple fingers and just kind of tap it where I want it if I'm looking for a glow. If I touch the doe foot directly to my face, because it is a more hydrating product, it has those skincare ingredients in there, it can sometimes kind of eat through maybe blush or foundation, and then I don't want that. But when I have a really thin layer like this on my fingers, I feel like I can tap it just where I want it and get a really pretty look. For the eye look today, I'm gonna grab mattes from various palettes. I have all 5 of Lisa's eyeshadow palettes, and then I'm gonna use my favorite like eyeshadow easy girl, like lazy girl product, the Liquid Lurex. I have quite a few of these. These are some of my favorite favorite like one and done eyeshadow looks, but I want to do something a little bit more than that today, but not too much. I'm going to start out with this shade here. This is Turbulence from the Vega palette. It's a little bit cooler, and I'm just going to put this like right here in the outer corner. I love how beautifully these blend. I do have an eyeshadow primer on. I find that I don't need it if I'm wearing just the liquid Lurex, but when I'm wearing the pressed eyeshadows, I find that I get better wear all day with an eyeshadow primer. And Lisa's formula is one that I'm willing to go that extra step. I know most people use an eyeshadow primer every day. I'm lazy and I don't. But when I fell in love with these eyeshadows, I realized if I wanted to see them all day long, they wear about 6 hours on me before they start to kind of disappear a little bit. But I love the textures and I love the shades. The nuanced shades are what I really love about this. And so I'm willing to go that extra mile and reach for like the eyeshadow primer. I'm going to use this matte here. This one's called French Gray. It's a little bit lighter, but still on the cool side. I'm going to take that like right along the lower lash line. I want kind of like a soft but easy eye look today with just a little bit more depth than I would get by using just one sparkle shade all over the lid. This liquid Lurex is the shade Emily. It's one of my most used. I love this one so much. It's a slightly cool leaning neutral, which is great for the sort of eye look I have going on today. I'm just going to use what's on the back of my hand, pick it up with my finger, and kind of just tap it like towards the center and a little bit over the matte that I put down. I'm going to try and keep this mostly on the lid, but I want it to be really easy and low fuss. I think that's it. Like, these are so easy. I can't tell you how easy these are. The other thing that I love about these is that when they're dry, you can still buff them out a little bit. Like if I'm worried about there being too much sparkle in my crease, I can take a mostly dry brush and just blend these. These blend beautifully with your finger or with a brush. I like them best with a synthetic brush, but they're super easy, like minimal effort, and you get really high payoff because they look like they took a lot of effort. I'm going to top it off with this shade here. This is Crested. It's a really pretty pearly shade. I'm going to put this in the inner corner. You definitely want to get these blended before they set down. They're a little bit, harder to blend if they're not wet. But I usually do one eye at a time because I was just doing the inner corner here. I felt like I could place, 2 dots and blend it out without them drying before they got to that point where they were a little bit more difficult. But I usually blend one eye at a time and then the other. But these work beautifully over the top of powder shadows. You can layer these liquid Lurexes up over themselves. They're really, really beautiful, and they have a lot of different colors in them, so they shift blue and pink and silver and whatever the base color is in them, but I think they're really pretty, and they look like a really, like, wow, what'd you do? And you're like, I swiped one color all over my eye and I called it good. That's what they're great about these. I like the way this looks, kind of easy and not too much, even though I have a little bit of an eye going on here. This really light lip keeps it from getting a little too heavy or too fussy, but let's take it a step up. I'm gonna take off this lip gloss and we'll throw on one of Lisa's lip liners and lipsticks. Lisa's Enhance and Define lip pencils are so good. I love these pencils. This is the shade Muse. I'm gonna use it today just to kind of give myself a little bit more of a boost. I try not to overdraw too much, but I tend to do it more here at the base of this lip and on the Cupid's bow. And I try and keep everything else kind of inside the lip line. These lip liners are fantastic. They're creamy. They're kind of like a gel liner. If it hasn't set yet, you still have the ability to move it. But once it sets, you want it exactly where you want it because this isn't going anywhere. I am going to top it off with the Velvet lipstick in Velvet Affair. I'm going to keep this mostly kind of like to the outside corners. And then I'm going to put a luxuriously lucent over the top. This is the shade Le Mépris, and this one always has a little bit of something on it because I always use it as a mixer. But I'm going to hit this mainly in the center here. I realized as I was going through and pulling out all of my Lisa products, I have tried every single makeup product she has created. I have not tried the new skincare items, mainly because I have so much skincare right now, not just that I'm using, but kind of like waiting in the wings. It just seemed financially like the wrong decision to buy more skincare, but I will eventually get around to trying it. But my favorite thing that Lisa makes are the lipsticks. Look at this. I have one more that doesn't fit in this display, but I love Lisa's lipstick formula. She has 3 formulas. I used 2 of them today. The Velvet formula, which is her matte formula. The Luxuriously Lucent, which is more of like a lightweight, balmy, sheer color, which is fabulous. And the Insanely Saturated, which is more of a demi-matte. But they're really bold and punchy colors, and one swipe you get full pigment. I've been a big fan of Lisa Eldridge since before she had a makeup line. I remember following her career. And then when she started doing YouTube videos, I really loved her approach to makeup. Sometimes it's very editorial, and sometimes it's very much like you, but the better version of you. Like, let's play up your really great attributes. And I feel like that's what Lisa's products do so beautifully. And I know that they are expensive, luxurious products, but I feel like for me, she creates craveable products. Obviously, you know, that's a lot. Same with these guys. I love these so much, and I have all 5 of her eyeshadow palettes. I feel like Lisa really does make not just craveable but quality products. The only one that wasn't a smash hit for me, of course, were these guys, and it's not the product, it was the packaging that failed. But like everything else about Lisa's brand for me is fantastic. Like packaging here is amazing. Even these guys, like I don't really reach for these glosses because of the round doe foot, but like there's like the packaging, they're so cute. I love that like most of these products come in glass, and everything, they're just beautifully done. Another beautiful touch for packaging is that every single one of these pans has a hole in the back where if you use one up, you can push it out and replace just that pan. You don't have to get the whole new palette for the one shade that you burn through. And I think that is definitely a makeup artist perspective of replacing just the one, which to me is amazing. And as you can see, definitely Lisa Eldridge products are craveable to me. I love them. I want to try them. I eventually will get around to trying her skincare, but I'm still very head over heels for the color makeup that she puts out. And when she comes out with new stuff, expect me to be like first in line. Thank you so much for watching today. Let me know if you've tried Lisa Eldridge products. Which are your favorites? Do you have a favorite lipstick shade? Do you have a favorite eyeshadow? Between the 2 formulas, do you prefer the ones in the palettes or the liquid eyeshadows? Let me know what your experience has been with Lisa Eldridge as a brand overall in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Have an incredible day, and I'll see you again soon.